Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roop Rai, and you're watching Ideas on Point on TC San. Please like and follow our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for more content. Our guest today is a self-made entrepreneur, Almin Kassamali, who is the Chief Imagination Officer at StyleLabs Marketing Group in Calgary and was recently opened another office for his company in Vancouver. If you're interested in starting your own business, or you're currently in the process of starting a business, or even if you are a business veteran, this is a conversation you want to watch. Let's welcome Almin Kassamali. Hello, Almin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's just have a conversation like we were chatting before I hit the record button.
For sure.
I've known you since university. Very, very long time. I'm not going to date us. I'm not going to say how young we are, but it's been a long time, and I've seen your journey from a university student to who you are today. A boss man, I call you. Someone who I look up to, who is very inspirational. You build your brand, you build your company, and you took your family around you, your people, your crew around you, and you built them up too with you. And I think that's amazing. That's inspirational. Of course, like I keep saying that to you all the time. Like, look at you as an inspiration. And that sound behind men, like that.
I know it's brutal. It's our HVAC. I'll have to talk to the landlord again. I know it's a bad one.
All right, I will put some background music. I'll put a bit of music. Hopefully, that'll cover it. All right, tell me what inspired your journey from a university student. So tell me your story from the start, from the beginning.
My story from the start. So what I'm doing right now, this is not my first company. It's not my first exit. I've been at it for a while. I was an aspiring lawyer that basically didn't pull it off because every second generation Canadian had to be a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, or an engineer. So I was the disappointment. I almost did it and I didn't. But you know what the truth is? What inspired me was I saw the hardship and the hustle that my parents went through, immigrating from East Africa, coming over here, sponsoring my grandparents, my aunts, and, holding it all up. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I did had purpose because, my parents didn't have much when we started out here, but they never left my sister or I wanting. I didn't know when they were struggling. They always gave us everything they wanted. They gave us every opportunity to get the exposure to be great. And I knew that being in a 9-to-5 box was really not going to honor them. And so I decided that I was going to do something that was extraordinary, that made an impact. And so entrepreneurship was the way to do it, right? Because as you know, having grown up with me, I'm completely unemployable. I'm an egomaniac, and and honestly, it's hard to put me in a box. And so what I had to do is I had to create my own box because I wasn't going to live a life that didn't have purpose and didn't honor all the sacrifices that my family made to give me the tools that I have. So here we are.
Yeah. So what was it like when you first started? Because I know you were still in university around that time when you first started exploring the world of entrepreneurship. What was it like? You said you wanted to have purpose, or you were driven to do something that didn't put you in a box, but there might have been moments where you were really scared or where you didn't think that you would be successful.
Roop, I'm scared every day. I'm scared right now. You scare me. No, I'm kidding.
No. That's a given.
You know what? When I started, anytime you try and create something out of nothing, I believe you have to be a special breed to do that. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody has the thick skin to do it. And I've always really been good at sales and marketing. That's just always been my superpower. Like When I was in school, I loved working at clothing stores because it taught me how to interact with people and not be scared of going up to a complete stranger and starting a wicked conversation. And so when I decided to do it for myself, I had already had a lot of practice. Like all my little part-time jobs at Uzu and Toxic and Anthony's and all these things I had done basically gave me the sandbox. And so when I came up with ideas, it was easy for me to go and talk to people about it and make them feel like it was the best idea in the world. And so I was always fed by validation that the concept was working, right? I would always sell something before I even built it. That's just who I always was. And was it scary? My parents had created a safety net for me when I first started. Like, I started my first company out of my bedroom in my parents' home. So what was there to be scared about? I, still had a career in oil and gas. I was staying at home. My parents had created a safety net. Everything was okay. And so that's the thing, right? That when you first start, the only fear is failure. But then somewhere along the line, you also have a fear of success. So you go from, oh my God, like, what if this doesn't work? I'm going to look like such a fool, to, oh my God, this is working. What if this works too well? What if I can't handle it? Like, what if this is too big for me? And I've had a lot of episodes of that where I'll walk into my office, or I'll walk into, like, we recently opened up a Vancouver office, and I walked into it, and for a second I was just like, I feel like a fraud. Like, is this real? Is this really happening? Like, did I do this? And I'm just a guy, right? And you have to give yourself these constant reality checks, and instead of questioning yourself, you have to do things from a place of gratitude. So the long answer to your short question is yes, I was scared every single day. I am scared every single day. Sometimes I feel like this is a dream and I'm going to wake up and it's all going to be gone. But the biggest fear really is not living up to my potential and not fulfilling what I feel is my destiny. And so when I do this work, and if the fear is not being able to put in 100%, the fear is not hitting a grand slam every time, the fear is not failure, the fear is, inadequacy, if that makes sense.
So how has your journey as a person of color impacted you? Like, any through the way? Like, was there hurdles, or what did it help you along? How was it in Canada, being a person of color, trying to start a new business, going into a field that perhaps like no one else has been there before, like in that field?
That's a good question. I think it comes down to, so in a lot of ways, I've grown up and I've become colorblind. I'm not brown, I'm not white, I'm not Asian or South Asian. I'm just Almin. Almin. That's what we'll get there.
Sorry, I'll tell our audience the reason why he is making fun of me here is because when we're starting this show, it took me forever to get his name right, because I've always been calling him Almin, like almond, like the nut, but his name is supposed to be pronounced as Almin. Almin.
You know what? It's you and 98% of everybody I know who calls me Almin, and it's so funny because some of my closest friends still call me that, and so we'll be having dinner and they'll be like, "Hey, Almin, what do you think?" I mean, Almin? I'm not going to answer to that anymore. You're going to call me Almin, or you're going to get the silent treatment. That's what's going to happen. But no, you know what? I will tell you that becoming colorblind all starts with being proud of who you are. See, when you're conscious of your ethnicity or your color, it means that you're not entirely comfortable with it. So I went to a Catholic school growing up, and I was ultra conscious of who I am. And, I would always try and fit in. But the reality of it is that what made me special is that I was different. And you know what? I love being an ethnic. I love having these like supercharged family values. And truly, I have to say that I've always tried to use it to my advantage. that you said earlier that I never creeped you out, and I'm gonna take that as a compliment. And I'll tell you, I would love to take credit for it, but the credit is not mine. The credit actually belongs to my dad. And I'll tell you why. My dad has been married to my mom for over 40 years. He still opens doors for her, he still pulls out chairs for her. He takes really good care of her. And every day when I was little, he would tuck me in and he would say, "We have to take care of our girls. We have to honor them because they're not just our everything, they are our anchor, and they are the reason we're even here." And so creeping people out is,
So we're going in a different direction
no,
now.
no, 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 it's not, and I want to explain to you why. I'm getting there. It's basically it. I believe that when you when you are when you come from wherever you do, you are the sum of your experiences. Okay, and so as an ethnic, as a colored person, all of these things, all these values that are being brought from back home and how you're being raised, those things actually they are all strengths. And so I know what you were asking me. You were asking me that, did I struggle being a colored person? Was there ever a time that I got discriminated against? And the answer to all those things is right. Yes. Yes, I did. I do. But what I wanted to answer your question with is the fact that being colored, being ethnic, it has never been a disadvantage. It has always been an advantage because of those strong family values, because of the understanding of what's right and wrong and how hard our parents drill those things into us. And that's why nothing is ever creepy. Everything is always done from a place of respect. Everything is basically done from a place of integrity. And that's why the 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 underlying value that actually defines the company that I currently have is to help the little guy. This all happened because of being a visible minority and being raised the old way. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. It absolutely
Yeah,
does. I think it's very important. We talked about this prior to recording this conversation. Is how important I also feel that owning your identity, owning yourself, like having confidence in your own self, and no one can shake that confidence if you believe in yourself. If
for
you
sure.
are, doesn't matter how you speak, what you eat, how you dress. It does not matter as long as you believe in yourself and you believe in your purpose. You go at it.
But you know what? I don't actually think this is about even being a minority or being a colored person. I think that, like, I can tell you a lot of third, fourth generation Canadians who have family values and who are strong. I think that really, I believe that good people come from good people, really, and really and truly doing.
At the same time, Almin, we cannot negate systemic racism. There is, I mean, we can't just like write it off. It is there. It's a genuine struggle that entrepreneurs face. I know my husband faces when he goes out and talks to people. So it is there. Like we can't just negate that. Yes, of course, like how you deal with it makes you what you are.
So you absolutely cannot negate it. If you go back and you read some of my posts, I've written about how people have approached me on the street and discriminated against me. But let me ask you something. People discriminate against us, but people also discriminate against white people. It happens.
Yeah, of course.
And you know what? I've seen it happen. Right? At the end of the day, I think that racism is racism.
But at the end of the day, also, like, I don't want, I mean, of course, I want to argue when I feel this. At the end of the day, we're living in a country where a system governs us, where we're within one system. And when that system is geared against one particular group, that's when it becomes a problem, right?
For sure.
So, yes, I agree that reverse racism is what people call it.
Mhm.
that exists as well. Of course, like everyone has an opinion of another ethnic group. We have opinion within our ethnic groups, right? Oh, he's Gujarati, oh, he's Punjabi, oh, he's South Indian, oh, he's Telugu. We have opinions, we have judgments. But I think the problem happens when it's systemic, when it's in the system, and it is directed at one certain group. And that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like when you're going through those hoops, is your character, your values that you spoke of. That's what comes into play there. How do you deal with that? And how do you overcome that so that our kids don't have to struggle through the same again?
So here's the thing. I have brown kids. I don't know if you know that or not.
I am.
So you know what? Inherently, they're going to experience a lot of this as well. And you know what? Here's what I tell my kids. When these things come up, I say, you know what? Honestly, get inspired by it. Work hard. Work angry. Work out angry. Play angry. And you know what? Direct your frustration in the right place. Complaining. Worrying and complaining is like a rocking chair. It's something to do, but it gets you nowhere, right? Yeah. But what if you take that and you put it into something good and you become stronger? What if you elevate yourself to a point where you make yourself bulletproof, right? So at the end of the day, it's not about revenge. It's about making yourself so good and so strong that they can't ignore you.
See, that's what I was trying to get at. You had it in you, and you took it out. So,
but again, I have to say that what I've noticed with my friends who are also visible minorities is that they fight fire with fire. You discriminate against me, I'm going to discriminate against you. And you know what I say? I say if you fight fire with fire, everyone gets burned. I had this little sage in my office who's always telling me these things. And honestly, what I was trying to say is that, you know what? It's there. We have to acknowledge it. But it's also everybody's impacted in some way or the other. And sometimes it's a function of reciprocation. And I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I really do. I think that you need to, you know what? The world's not fair. Life is not fair. But you know what? We are also very, very blessed. Look what we're doing right now. Look where we are. Look at what we have access to. There are people who don't have this. And so every time I feel discriminated against, every time I feel like something didn't go the right way, I basically take that energy and I get angry and I do better. And that's it.
So these are the conversations I want to have on this platform, and I think it's very important to get that message out there. Just you can't be angry at from a place of revenge. It should be from a place of I need to better myself. I need to create something for myself so that my kid looks at me later, and or not just my kid, any kid. Not just my kid, any kid. The next generation looks up to us and says, and has an easier time. They will have their own battles to fight, like you said, but their battles will be different than what we were fighting or our parents fought. So that's the only hope.
You know, I tell my kids this all the time. You can't change others. You can only change yourself, right? But also remember, and we talked about this before we started this interview, we are the sum of our experiences. And so when things come up and when we experience these things, everything is a gift. Everything. And you know what? It is what builds our repertoire. And the Roop we have here and the Almin we have here, these are, you know what I'm going to call you if you call me Almin, right? So these are, we are here right now because of all the decisions we've made, the experiences we have, the relationships we have, and how we have pivoted around the adversities in our lives, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it absolutely does. Well, it was, I'm an advocate of talking these things out, because the perspective that you'll come from will add to my perspective, and it'll make for a better wholesome experience for me as well. Like, I will learn, I will grow. So whatever you tell me, I'll take bits of it, and I'll be like, yeah, no, I agree. I agree where you, what you say about. I really, that makes me when you say that, change that anger into something positive rather than destructive. So good for you. All right, we talked about your kids, and we talked about your girlfriend, who is now your wife. Uh, Talk to me about work-life balance. How do you maintain that, given that your job is highly, highly time intensive?
Yeah, so work-life balance is it's a tough one. When I went on this entrepreneurial journey, I blew up everything. I ruined my body. I ruined my mental health. I really really you know I beat myself up pretty bad to create what we've created so far. And then I had my 40th birthday in September, actually. And when I had that 40th birthday, I basically decided that, you know what, if I don't put that oxygen mask on myself first, I'm never going to be able to protect my kids and my wife and my family. And so the first, I've taken some steps in the last little while to level up and to become better. And honestly, I think that work life balance is a lot better now, but it is something that we have to be extremely conscious of because it's very easy to let it slip. And so, what I've learned is that in order to achieve work life balance with the schedule that I have to build a team around me. And so I did four things that have been absolutely amazing. The first thing I did was I hired a leadership coach. I had another one, and sadly, he actually passed away, but that's what it actually got me on the right path. And then from there, I hired somebody else, and this coach has really helped me level up. He's really teaching me how to become a good leader. See, the problem is, I've never had any professional mentors. I have, but I haven't, right? And there's nobody who can say, "Hey, you went from being a really good marketer, but now this is how you become a really good leader." I have personal mentors, personal inspirations, but I don't have anybody that I've seen and how they've conducted themselves in business. So I hired this coach. His name's Ranj, and the guy's a stud. He's always helping me find ways to unlock things. And what's interesting is that there's nothing that we talk about that I don't already know. It's all about reinforcement and repetition. He's just helping me unlock what's already inside of me. The second thing we did was we actually hired a chef. And this has been life changing. We don't eat out anymore. And because of the pandemic, my kids actually have little setups in these pods in our office. And so the chef basically comes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. She delivers food, and it's all pre-portioned. And as you know, I have the taste buds of a 5-year-old. And so she makes sure that, I'm not getting anything nasty in my food. And, it's got a little, Almin written on it with a happy face. And the happy face is not, "I love you," it's, "haha, you're an idiot." But anyways, regardless of that, we've got a chef, so we're eating well, we're fueling properly. I train with who I consider to be the very best trainer in the country. His name's Paul Anthony. And then the last thing, and this one was really hard for me, is my team coerced me into getting an executive assistant. And as I told you, I bloody hate that name. So I call her my co-pilot. I think she's much more than an assistant. I think executive assistant is a little bougie. But really and truly, these four things have basically helped me restore my work and life balance. Now, work-life balance, rather. It is basically, my coach always says, you have to slow down before you speed up. And he also says that in order to do brilliant work, you have to create space. See, what we do as business owners is we get stuck on the tools, and sometimes our success runs us over instead of being a springboard for us. So what this team of mine helps me do, my personal team is what I call it, is basically create that space so that I can do more. I can open up the Vancouver office. We have this new investment fund we've created where we're investing back in our clients. These things could have never happened if these people didn't give me the space. And so I encourage every entrepreneur who I know is going to fall into those holes and into that vortex to really enroll them in the possibility of building this personal team for themselves. Because if you really want to succeed, this is how you're going to have to do it. And it took me a long time to understand, 11 years to understand this. But as a result, now I have more time for my kids. My kids are my best friends. I was telling my co-pilot yesterday that, when we talk about soulmates, my daughters, my son, they are my soulmates. They, we have this deep relationship that I couldn't have with them before because I was so tired. I would come home and I'd have nothing left. So slowly we started bringing in, it takes a whole community to succeed, to have that balance when you have this tumultuous entrepreneurial life. And that's how we've been balancing it. And on the personal level, my girlfriend, who became my wife, is the best woman in the world. Like I tell everybody that God literally made this woman for me, and it's because she is also she is a rocket. She's an amazing entrepreneur. She manages multi-million-dollar media buy portfolios. She has the creative eye of a genius. I've worked with all these creatives in my life, and she's the best of the best. And so we also have to be careful because, when we come home and when we're in bed, we have a rule: no talking about work. And we always break that rule, but then we'll bring it back. We try and go for date nights. Every 6 weeks, we'll try and get away to the Rimrock or have a staycation or something, just so that we stay connected and we don't basically lose ourselves in our work, because our work is very important, right? And so that work-life balance, I think it's multivariance. I think that what you do with your kids, what you do with your partner, and what you do with let's not forget, an important part of this is your parents, is your elders. It is very important to keep an eye on them, make sure they're okay. Every day I have regrets that I'm not calling my parents enough. I'm not reaching out to them or spending enough time with them. So fundamentally what we do is we always make sure we're seeing them once a week, at least talking on the phone 3 or 4 times a week, that we are connected. We let them know that we're there for them, even though reality is they're actually still more there for us, right? So it's all of that. Balance is not one thing, it's a lot of things.
So what is your message to budding entrepreneurs who may not have the luxury or the privilege of hiring a team around them? So what is your message to them? Should they keep up with the grind, even if it's taking a toll on them? How do they manage that?
You know what? I think that there's a few things. So I think that the first thing you need to do is you need to understand your purpose. Okay? You have to understand what keeps you driven. I think that's very important. And so I have what I call a personal manifesto. And in this personal manifesto, I have 3 pillars. What is my purpose? What keeps me driven? The first thing is to serve. So I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. Okay? Number 2 is my family. I want to basically create what they call generational wealth. Not so that my kids are rich, but so that they have the bandwidth to get all the exposure they need to get the tools to live as a top 1%er. And then passion. You have to love what you do. Okay? So that's the first part. The first part is understanding what your purpose is. If you don't have purpose, you will not be able to get out of bed. Okay? The next thing you have to look at is yourself. So, what are your truths? What are the truths that you live by? And the truths that I live by are, number 1, and I completely stole this from Gary Vaynerchuk, even though he irritates the shit out of me a lot. I love so much of what he says. Love your family, work super hard, and leave the world in a better place than you found it. Those are the truths, okay? And so once you basically figured out who you are, so business and entrepreneurship is very much like love. Okay? You can't love someone else until you love yourself. Now, once you get to that point where you have that personal equilibrium, okay, then you basically start thinking about, okay, now I'm here. Now I'm at the starting line, right? You have to start with that inside work. Now you've got a good idea. Go for it. No fear. Let's take it as far as we can, okay? And don't put yourself in a position of weakness. Do everything from a position of power. Power comes from planning, power comes from strategy, and power comes from thoughtfulness. Okay? Then seek mentorship. So at heart and professionally, I am a researcher before I'm a marketer, an entrepreneur. I'm a researcher. I will go out and I will validate absolutely everything that's going on up here. Do surveys, talk to people who are successful, watch podcasts. Robin Sharma, who I follow, basically says that reading is everything. And when you're reading, it's like you are having, in the Greatness Guide, he writes, have coffee with Gandhi. And when you're reading a book, it's like you're sitting with that author and having a conversation with them. My dad always used to tell me, and I never understood this when I was younger, is that when you are trying to do something, unsuccessful people or people who are starting should pay successful people for their wisdom. So you can live life by making your own mistakes, or you can live life by learning from other people's mistakes. Mentorship basically gives you that head start, that advantage. And then finally, don't work with friends and family. I perpetually have made this mistake in my life, and I regret it every single time. And honestly, I will tell you that some of my clients and some of my colleagues have become my closest friends, like my family. But that's me. Sorry, just ignore it. We're fine. Yeah, I have very aggressive alarms because I just go into tangents. But but basically, and this is an important one. I just got blown away here. My colleagues and my clients are some of my best friends. Truly, they're like my family. But they became that because of work. What I used to do is I'd say, hey, you're my relative. I want to do good things for you. I've got this great idea. Come into my world. And you know what happens? A lot of times, those people who you know socially are not who you think they are professionally. Okay? And I firmly believe that how you do one thing is how you do another, is how you do everything. And so once you lose respect for somebody professionally, the personal relationship is gone. And so just don't go down that road. Just don't do it, right? It's so tempting, but you don't do it. And honestly, if you are going to do it, then make sure that you're clearly aligning expectations. And that is actually the last thing that I would tell a would-be entrepreneur or wantrepreneur or whatever. I would say put everything on paper. Document everything. Articulate everything so clearly that understandings are binary, right? There is no room for interpretation. It's like, this is what we're talking about. This is how we're going to do it. This is our pathway. These are your responsibilities. These are my responsibilities. This is the outcome. This is our exit. This is how we're going to deal with the whole thing. If you do that, you are setting yourself and that other person up for success. And honestly, it is probably the only way that you should be doing anything in business, no matter how small.
That is such great advice. I just want to keep listening to you. Guru Kassamali, sorry. Guru Kassamali is back. All right, tell me quickly about StyleLabs. What's StyleLabs? I know you made fun of me again. Yeah, what does it do? And we'll wrap it up after that.
Sure. So, um, like everything else in my life, there's a story, right? Um, I've been involved with a lot of ventures, a lot of businesses in my, in my adult life, and something that I learned going through all of those is that when you start something, you are always at this like distinct disadvantage. There's a knowledge gap, there's a technology gap, and you know what? It is very hard to be an entrepreneur when you're always competing against big business. So, what I did years ago when I sort of wrapped up some of my other ventures is Selena and I had a vision that I had to sell her on because, I mean, let's be honest, she's the boss, actually. So I had to sell her on this idea of creating an incubator accelerator for businesses.
One second. Selena is Almin's wife.
Selena is Almin's wife. Almin works for Selena. So when we decided, uh, when I thought about creating this incubator accelerator, I went to her and I said, listen, I've got this idea. And, at the time it was just a technology play, but the big picture was how can I create this really safe place for business owners where I can give them business strategy, I can build sales programs for them, and then I could take all this business insight and put it into a technology wrapper. And that is basically what StyleLabs is. We've now been in business for about 11 years. Depending on how you look at it, we've got about 500 clients. And for these 500 clients, we do everything from building their websites to running their marketing to actually being their business coaches, developing pathways and strategies for these clients. I spend most of my day having one-on-one coaching sessions like this with clients and helping them take their ideas and actually turning them into something real. There are so many people that basically have these incredible ideas and they have no way of actually manifesting them into something legit. What we do is we close that gap and we actually turn it into something real. So whether you're a startup or you're a company that needs to grow, or you've hit a ceiling and you've plateaued, or you're an established veteran who just needs a digital transformation, or you're in big trouble, we basically give you everything you need to build the right pivots, create the right opportunities to level up. Our success rate is about 90%. And we have, just through organic marketing, helped generate over $200 million for our clients. And at the end of the day, what we've done now in this last recent year is, like I said earlier, we've now developed a fund. So we have now started to invest back into our clients and build an equity partnership with them and actually run these companies together. So it's sort of snowballing into something else, but very aligned with the vision of helping the little guy and growing with them.
Yeah, that was a thought that was circulating in my head when you were talking about people coming to you for help, like a startup, someone who does not have the resources to perhaps pay you for your services. I mean, you can partner up with them and then help them out. That's fantastic.
Absolutely, for sure.
All right. Well, it was lovely chatting with you. Lovely chatting with you for an hour before we started recording too. So it's really nice catching up with you. Thank you for giving me the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time. It was really, really nice to do this.